As we have talked about, many critical reasoning questions boil down to your ability to identify the author's assumption. And it can be a little bit tricky. Hopefully it's becoming easier for you and you're thinking about it in an effective way. But here are two strategies that I think will help. The first is to identify the pattern of argument. I alluded to this earlier. If you can identify the argument as, say, an argument by analogy, an argument by generalization, maybe a causal argument, then the assumption will necessarily follow. And I mentioned that we're going to talk about that in critical reasoning part 2, and we will. So hold on that for now. I think that will make your life infinitely easier, but in the meantime, or even in addition to that, a second strategy is called the negation technique. For critical reasoning questions that flat out ask you to identify the assumption, the negation technique, by the way, is more useful on questions where the question is, what's the author's assumption? It's not as useful for thinking about the assumption in the context of the larger question that maybe you're asked to strengthen or weaken, right? And you'll see why here in a second. But for questions that flat out ask you to just identify the assumption, which answer choice is the assumption of the argument, use the following technique. Or if you're having trouble finding the assumption, just use it to double check your answer. The negation technique says that what you do is you basically work through the answer choices one by one and you negate each assumption. So the answer choices will actually be the assumption. But what we want to do is let's imagine we're the opposite. Let's negate that assumption. If the original argument would still hold, even if you negate the assumption, then that is not the right answer. If the argument falls apart, however, when you negate it, then that must be the answer, right? Because if the assumption is correct and then we negate it, the whole argument should fall apart. And so that's what we're looking for. And again, you could do this to help you actually find the assumption straight away or even just to double check your answer. Let's take it from kind of this esoteric definition of the technique to actually applying it to a real example. Take a look at this example. What do we always do? We read the question first. The question is, the argument above is based on which of the following assumptions? Okay. We're just flat out finding the assumption. Beautiful. Step 2, we read this argument reductively. Within 20 years, it will probably be possible to identify the genetic susceptibility an individual may have toward any particular disease. Eventually, effective strategies will be discovered to counteract each such susceptibility. Once these effective strategies are found, therefore, the people who follow them will never get sick. So I want you to read this reductively. I want you to press pause. I want you to break this argument up into its component parts. Clearly identify the conclusion, clearly identify the premises, and then see if you can find the assumption, see which answer choice you get, and then we'll come back and we'll do it together. Go ahead and press pause. All right. Before we look at the answer choices, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. What is the conclusion? Well, the good news is there's one of those locator words, right? Therefore what? People who follow these strategies will never get sick. That's my whole point. That's a pretty strong argument, right? I mean, what if I came up to you and said, hey, in 20 years, you're never going to get sick? Really? Prove it to me. What is this argument based on? That's my point, though, isn't it? That's the whole point of this argument, is to say that in 20 years or so, people who follow these strategies are never going to get sick? Okay, fine. What's the premise? Well, then everything else, right? A, they're going to be able to identify genetic susceptibilities, and B, they're going to be able to create effective strategies to deal and counteract those susceptibilities, right? Two premises that then say, okay, if that's the case, beautiful. Hey, we're going to be able to identify these genetic susceptibilities to illnesses, and then we're going to have a strategy for counteracting them. Bingo, you're never going to get sick. Wonderful thing. Can't wait for 20 years from now, right? However, that rests on some pretty strong assumptions, right? A number of them. Which answer choice did you get? Well, if you did the brain work, you may have looked at the answer choices and gotten it straight off the bat. If not, you may have needed to use the negation technique. So let's walk through that together and do it one by one. Starting with answer choice A. Answer choice A says that for every disease there is only one strategy that can prevent its occurrence. Let's negate it. For every disease there is more than one strategy that can prevent its occurrence. Does that negate then the argument? Does the argument fall apart when we negate that assumption? No, of course not. The argument can still hold, piece of cake. Because actually that's just reinforcing what the original argument is saying, right? So what? If there's more than one strategy, that's okay. There's still going to be effective strategies to deal with all of those genetic susceptibilities. That's okay. So negating that doesn't change the fact that the argument in that case would still hold. Therefore, answer choice A cannot be the assumption. Answer choice B. In the future, genetics will be the only medical specialty of any importance. We're going to negate that. In the future, genetics will not be the only medical specialty of any importance. So what? I don't care if it's not the only one of importance, as long as it comes up with strategies to counteract the susceptibility and identifies the susceptibility. Whether or not it's the only specialty is irrelevant. As long as it still exists, the argument can still hold. It doesn't matter if it's not the only medical specialty. Does that make sense? So the answer is not B. Answer choice C. Not all human sicknesses are in part the result of individuals' genetic susceptibilities. Does that make the argument fall apart? Yeah, absolutely, right? Absolutely. And in fact, this is the assumption. The assumption is that all human sicknesses are in part the result of genetic susceptibilities. Because if we negate that and we say that they're not, what does that mean? Well, remember, what does the conclusion say? The whole argument is meant to say that people who follow these strategies will never get sick. Here's the thing. That only holds if all illness is a result of genetic susceptibilities. Does that make sense? Because in 20 years, they're saying we're going to find all these genetic susceptibilities, we're going to find counteractive measures to deal with these genetic susceptibilities. Therefore, people who follow them will never get sick. Well, if it's the case that not all human sickness is a result, what if I still eat at McDonald's 5 days a week, I still have fatty meals, I'm a trial lawyer and have all sorts of stress in my life, right? I may have a genetic predisposition to heart disease, for example. And let's say 20 years from now, they're going to deal with that. Might it still be the case that I could still get heart disease if I'm clogging my arteries? In other words, if there are other possible reasons, maybe heart disease isn't a genetic disease only, and in fact, I just happen to know enough about nutrition to know that only a small part of heart disease is genetics related. So the point is, 20 years from now, they can deal with my genetic susceptibility to heart disease, cancer, stroke, whatever, but if there are other factors at play, if there are other reasons people are going to get sick, so what? They deal with my genetic factors. I go out and eat at McDonald's all day long, or I live on a golf course and am susceptible to all sorts of pesticides. I may still get cancer, even if they deal with my cancer susceptibilities genetically. Does that make sense? And so by negating answer choice C, not all human sickness is a result of individuals' susceptibilities, genetic susceptibilities, the argument falls apart. Therefore, the affirmative of answer choice C must then be what I'm assuming. Does that make sense? So the answer is C. Really quickly, answer choice D would also fall apart because not all humans, so what if not all humans are susceptible to some disease? That doesn't play into it here. And whether or not they actually follow advice, the conclusion itself says that the people who do follow the advice will never get sick. So what if people don't follow the advice? Okay, they may get sick, but that's not what I'm concluding anyway, so that's irrelevant. So I hope you see why answer choice C is the correct assumption and how if we negate it, it helps us to confirm, yeah, if we negate that assumption, the whole thing would fall apart. That reinforces to us that the answer is C. All human sicknesses are in part the result of individuals' genetic susceptibilities. Finding the assumption, remember, using the negation technique can be helpful. It can be especially helpful if the question is flat out asking us to identify the assumption. However, it will also be very useful for you, perhaps even more useful for you on a wider number of question types if you can identify the pattern of argument that you're looking at. And we are going to start by tackling that when we begin critical reasoning part 2. For now, learn this, pay attention to this, learn the methodology, learn the parts of an argument, apply it to practice problems, and go out and dominate the GMAT.